Hey, everybody. Thank you for waiting a little bit behind schedule, getting everything in order at the house. But here we are. We're starting. So, yeah, let's do it. Yet another one of our great late night chats. Here we go.
Of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everyone. Glad to be here with all of you tonight. We are once again having a late night conversation. We'll be following the same format we always follow here, which is first I give my opening remarks. Then from there we do a roll call where I call you all out as I see you. Then from there I answer your questions for the remainder of the show. So if there's something you would like me to talk about in the second half of the program, send a super chat or a Rumble rant. And that's the way we get questions in the second half of the program. Second half of the program is all you. Lately, people have been doing a great job asking good questions, getting me talking, as always good. So couple announcements. First of all, join us in Los Angeles. We're having a workshop in Los Angeles. Do you believe in growth? April 19th is the event. It's going to be good. April 19th, be there in Los Angeles. Music, speeches, good food. Get to know our organization, what we stand for. It's going to be good. And then we're all building for the National Convention in Chicago, July 12th. We have a lot of work to do between now and July 12th, but this will be the biggest event that the Center for Political Innovation has ever done. We are going to gather a crowd of 400 plus people in the auditorium at the Midwest Conference Center near the O'Hare Airport. We've already reserved the place. The place holds 500. We're going to get at least 400. We're going to pack them in there. It is going to be absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I look forward to seeing all of you in Chicago for our national convention, July 12th, 2025, an all-day mega anti-imperialist rally. It's going to be absolutely tremendous. So we've got that going on. And as always, the stream will follow our usual format. Opening remarks first, followed by the roll call, followed then by my answering of your questions. So, there's something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, send me a super chat or a Rumble rant. Rumble rants are on Rumble. Super chats are on YouTube. Now, the big news today is that it appears Russia has agreed to take the 30-day ceasefire offer on certain grounds. Now, Trump's team has arrived in Moscow to begin negotiating. That's happening. Donald Trump has been speaking from the White House. And at first, when it was announced that Ukraine was willing to do a 30-day ceasefire, the United States and Ukraine are negotiating in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. When that was first on the table, the response was for a lot of Russian voices to be like, that's ridiculous. That's absurd. We're just going to put this war on hold for 30 days. And keep in mind, Ukraine did unleash a horrendous drone attack on Russia the night before they made this offer. I showed some footage of that on here. It was absolutely horrendous. Over 400 drones into Russia, apartment buildings destroyed, 3 people dead, 18 wounded, including children. It was devastating. This horrendous drone attack. Russia has very good military defenses, and so well over 300 of the 400 drones were deflected. But I mean, they were striking Moscow apartment buildings. It was a vicious thing to do. Russia goes out of its way not to target civilians in the conflict, whereas Ukraine has never not targeted civilians since this conflict began in 2014. We know I've showed you all the Alley of Angels, the monument to all the children killed by the U.S.-backed regime in Kiev. I've shown you all that image many times, that they banned the Wikipedia page of this monument in the Donetsk People's Republic to all the children who died since 2014. And on top of that, there was that horrendous, terrorist attack at the Crocus City concert, where the U.S. government announced a couple weeks before that there was an upcoming terrorist attack at a concert. That was absolutely horrendous. Ukraine has targeted civilians relentlessly. They've been killing civilians in the Donbas region. They've been killing civilians in Moscow. They've been sending terrorists to shoot up concerts, and it's just absolutely horrendous what Ukraine is up to. So when Ukraine first floats the idea of, we'll just have a 30-day ceasefire and then we'll get going again, Russia was not having it. But now Russia is saying that they will accept a ceasefire for 30 days if it will lead to a permanent peace. And that is a big announcement. It comes as the U.S. team has arrived in Moscow, and today the Russian president was in Belarus. He was having a press conference with Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus. And at that press conference, he announced that, yes, Russia would be willing to accept a 30-day ceasefire. And the Russian president made some pretty clear clarifications about what that meant. So I'm going to put the statement from the Russian president about the negotiated ceasefire in Ukraine. I'm going to put it on the screen. You can comprehend it. You can take it in for yourself. Here we go.
Для украинской стороны очень хорошо было бы добиться перемирия хотя бы на 30 суток. И мы за. Но есть нюансы. В чем они заключаются? Первое. Что мы будем делать вот с этим участком в Клинине в Курской области? Если мы прекращаем боевые действия на 30 суток, что это означает? Что все, кто там находится, будут выходить без боя? Мы их оттуда должны выпустить после того, как они совершили массу преступлений против мирных граждан? Или украинское руководство даст нам команду сложить оружие? Просто сдаться в плен. Как это будет? Это непонятно. А как будут решаться другие вопросы на все линии соприкосновения? А это почти 2000 километров. И там, как вы знаете, российские войска наступают практически на всех участках боевого соприкосновения. И там тоже создаются условия для того, чтобы мы взяли в блокирование целые, достаточно крупные подразделения. Значит, эти 30 суток будут как использоваться? Для того, чтобы на Украине продолжилась эта принудительная мобилизация, для того, чтобы туда поставлялось оружие, для того, чтобы мобилизованные вновь подразделения прошли подготовку, или ничего этого не будет делаться, тогда возникает вопрос, как будут решаться вопросы контроля, верификации? Как мы можем и как нам будет гарантировано, что ничего подобного происходить не будет? Контроль как будет организован? Надеюсь, что на уровне здравого смысла это всем понятно. Это все серьезные вопросы. Значит, кто будет отдавать приказы на прекращение боевых действий? И какова цена этим приказам? Вы представляете, почти 2000 километров. кто определит, где и кто нарушил вот, возможную договоренность о прекращении огня на протяжении 2000 километров. И потом, кто на кого будет сваливать нарушение этой договоренности. Это все вопросы, требующие своего кропотливого исследователя с обеих сторон. Поэтому сама по себе идея правильная, и мы, безусловно, ее поддерживаем. Но есть вопросы, которые мы должны обсудить. И думаю, что нам нужно и с американскими нашими коллегами, партнерами на этот счет переговорить. Может быть, с президентом Трампом созвониться и вместе с ним пообсуждать. Но сама по себе идея закончить этот конфликт мирными средствами нами поддерживается.
So there we have him basically saying that there's a lot of specifics that have to be worked out for this ceasefire. We can't just say ceasefire, right? Because there's the Kursk incursion, where the Ukrainian forces have gone into Russian territory. There's that. And what do you do with all those forces? On top of that, there are a lot of, rules about who is going to be responsible and what will be considered a violation, who will determine if the ceasefire has been violated. There's a lot that needs to be worked out. And then at the end, you heard him floating the idea, which is already in the works, the understanding that there will be a phone call between Donald Trump and Putin. And that's expected to happen soon. Now, I mean, it was expected to happen this week. Today is Thursday. It's Thursday evening. So I would assume if it's going to happen this week, it'll happen tomorrow. It'll happen on Friday. But this is all very, very good. It's very, very good. It's interesting because many people have observed that it seems almost like Ukraine's initial offer was a trap. Originally, the idea was Ukraine would offer a 30-day ceasefire, no strings attached. Russia would decline it, and then they'd say, see, Russia doesn't want to negotiate. And then they would just continue the conflict. And so Russia initially declined it. But before everyone can walk away and say, okay, we gave Russia a chance at peace, Russia said, oh, we'll take it, but. And now that's got everyone startled. Everyone's got their attention now, right? So it was very smart that Russia first made clear 30-day ceasefire with no other terms, not okay. But you want to talk 30-day ceasefire? Okay, we can do that, but, there are certain rules that have to be in place. This has to be like a real ceasefire, and it has to actually lead to permanent peace. It can't just be an opportunity for Ukraine to regroup and get their shit together. This has to be a real ceasefire. Now, all of this is certainly hopeful, and I am confident that the war in Ukraine will end soon. Russia would not even be considering the idea of a 30-day ceasefire. They initially turned it down, and they would not even be considering it if there was any chance this was just a temporary pause, because they have retaken and liberated some very key areas recently. Ukraine did their horrendous drone attack. You have the Kursk incursion. That it would not be in Russia's interest to even consider this for a minute if they weren't confident that they could get a signed peace agreement out of this. And Zelensky is on the defensive. Zelensky, we remember the incident at the White House with Zelensky. And I am confident that the war in Ukraine will end soon. Now, I guess I can show you the reaction of Trump, to this. I guess I have to pull up that video. If you just give me a minute, I will show you Trump's remarks from the White House today in response to Russia accepting this, these were odd comments that Donald Trump made. I will say that I was not expecting Trump to speak in this manner, but then all of this has been surprising, and that is kind of Trump's style with the art of the deal, never be predictable, etc. But this is, I was not expecting Trump to react the way he did. Trump's remarks, that he made from the White House were very, very odd. Let me just pull them up for you. Hold on. Just gotta get Donald Trump's remarks on the screen. Not what I was expecting, but we shall see. I mean, again, all of this indicates there is serious moves toward peace, and that is really important if it is the case. So let me just pull up the video here, just trying to get the video together. Right? Hold on. Just scrolling. Have the video for you shortly. Want to make sure I have everything together. Trump was mainly talking about tariffs, etc. So yeah, I guess here we go. I will put on the video of President Trump speaking from the White House today about where we're at. So take a look at this. Okay, hold on. Just got to put it on the screen. 1 second. All right, there we go. So this was from the White House today. This was Trump. Hold on. Yeah.
Discussing a lot of things. Obviously, we'll be discussing what's happening with respect to Ukraine and Russia. At this moment, we have people talking in Russia. We have representatives over there, Steve Witkoff and others, and they're in very serious discussions. As you know, Ukraine has agreed, subject to this, what's happening today, to a complete ceasefire, and we hope Russia will do the same. Thousands of people are being killed, young people, mostly young people. We were just talking about it. Thousands of young people are being killed a week, and we want to see that stop. And they're not Americans, and they're not from the Netherlands for the most part. No. They're from Russia, and they're from Ukraine, but they're people. And I think everybody feels the same way. We want it to stop. It's also a tremendous cost to the United States and to other countries. And it's something that would have never happened if I were president, and it makes me very angry to see that it did happen. But it happened, and we have to stop it. And Mark has done some really good work over the last week. We've been working together, and he's done some really good work, so I'm very happy about that. We'll also be talking about trade and various other things, and I think we'll have a very, very strong day. We're going to have lunch afterwards. That'll go, and then we'll see you all later.
So that's Donald Trump seeming optimistic about it. And this was the other comment that he made, which was a little strange. But here we go. This was the one that had people perplexed.
You're a man of peace. You said it several times, and you made it very clear. A man of peace dealing with belligerent people. And I'm thinking, we saw how you handled Zelensky in this very own room. What is your leverage on Putin? Are you thinking sanctions? What if he refuses to?
Well, I do have leverage, but I don't want to talk about leverage now, because right now we're talking to him, and based on the statements he made today, they were pretty positive, I think. So I don't want to talk about that. I hope Russia's going to make the deal too. And I think once that deal happens, you're never going to be in a process. I don't think they're going back to shooting again. I really believe if we had if we get a peace treaty, a ceasefire treaty, I think that leads to peace. That's going to really lead to peace. Yeah.
So now I got to say, the coverage of this, I mean, you heard the leading question there. You say you're a man of peace. You have to deal with, what leverage do you have? Threaten Russia, please. Threaten Russia right now. And he said, well, look, I'm not going to talk about leverage right now. And then he said, which is what Russia has made clear, that this has to be the end of the conflict. If we get 30 days, this has to lead to the war ending. It has to end here. But that's one thing I have noticed, when Biden met with Putin. It's like the press is constantly demanding, are you warlike enough? Are you threatening enough? Are you hostile enough? And that's not what the American people want. Polls show the American people want less international hostilities. They want less tension with Russia. But American journalists have turned into war lobbyists. The president walks out of a meeting and it's like, did you threaten them loud enough? Oh, are you giving them too much? Are you trying to make peace? You better not be trying to make peace. It is really despicable to see that the press has really just degenerated into the war lobby. And we've seen that time and time again. The press conference that Biden gave after he met with the Russian president, Biden's already the most anti-Russian guy you ever heard of. But when he met with Putin, you would have thought that the press was going to accuse him of being a Russian agent. And like the word leverage, right? Leverage generally is like your ability to compel someone to do something. Well, right now, people are dying on the battlefield. Donald Trump promised that he was going to end this war, and Russia would really like this war to end as well. There's a lot of pressure on both sides to end this. Meanwhile, it seems that the Ukrainian forces really want to keep this going. Now, I feel that this is because, and I think a lot of people feel that this is because, there's a lot of money getting scraped off the top. And that's what Seymour Hersh has revealed in a lot of his great journalistic work. Zelensky has a very corrupt inner circle. And there's a lot of people at the top of the military that are getting paid, And they don't want the gravy train to end. It's like, how much is enough? We've poured billions of dollars in there. And all kinds of things that they told us at the beginning of the conflict are Russian propaganda are now being revealed. For example, the fact that the dead soldiers of Ukraine, that their organs are being sold on the black market for a long time. And if you Google that, you will still see articles from Voice of America and anti-Russian websites. Oh, Russia spreads propaganda that Ukraine is harvesting the organs of dead soldiers. But now there are Ukrainians who've been arrested for doing that. The Ukrainian government just now passed an official law making that illegal. And it very clearly was going on. They very, very clearly were doing that. The other story out of Ukraine that is not getting any attention is the fact that Ukraine has barely anybody left, and they are dragging every last man off the battlefield. There was recently a case in Ukraine where a woman called the ambulance. I believe her husband was injured. There was an ambulance, and the ambulance came and took him away and then gave him to the military. And she never heard from him again because he was given to the military by the emergency services. Completely unethical behavior. The other thing is that there continue to be demonstrations by Ukrainians in America who want more weapons for Ukraine, hate Putin, etc. And I always look at those demonstrations and it's like, those are draft dodgers. If those people really believe that they want the war to keep going, why are they here and not in Ukraine? Why are they not in Ukraine trying to keep the war? I mean, Ukraine is dragging every last man and boy off the street to keep this conflict going. Ukraine is facing a generation without men. It looks like. It looks like they're going to be facing a generation without fathers, a generation of older brothers missing. It's going to be, Ukraine has really gotten the short end of the stick for a number of reasons. For example, the bullets that they're using in Ukraine have depleted uranium on them. Now, depleted uranium is a metal substance, and the USA used it in Iraq, and it is linked to all kinds of ailments, respiratory problems, etc. But the main thing is it prevents crops from growing. So right now, every bullet that gets shot off is putting metal poison dust into the air that's going to make it harder for Ukraine to grow crops. How is that in Ukraine's interest? It's absolutely not in Ukraine's interest to have, after this war, all the poison dust from the depleted uranium coming from the bullets that the United States and Britain gave them. That's going to make it so they can't grow crops after this war is over. There's just so many ways in which if this was really about helping the people of Ukraine, it was really about their interest, about caring for them, they wouldn't be acting the way they're acting. Ukraine is getting royally screwed by this, and not by Russia, by the Western powers that are twisting their arm and pushing them into this confrontation. Why does Zelensky not want to have an election? Because Zelensky was elected on a platform of peace. Poroshenko was the first president who came into office after the Euromaidan coup in 2014. And Zelensky ran against him on a platform of peace with Russia, and he didn't implement it. And Ukraine signed a treaty, the Minsk Agreement, that was to make peace with the eastern regions, the people in the Donbass. They signed that agreement, and now they've admitted that they had no intention of ever implementing that agreement. It was simply to buy time to set the stage for provoking a Russian invasion of Ukraine and the conflict that is now happening. I mean, Ukraine is being absolutely devastated by this, and not by Russia. They are being devastated by the Western countries, and they've got a corrupt leadership that is enriching themselves and keeping this conflict going as long as they possibly can. And you have to understand the conflict in that light. Now, one thing that is certainly of concern to me is that Jamie White, who is a reporter for InfoWars, was stabbed to death outside of his apartment in Austin, Texas. And Jamie White, like me, is on the list of information terrorists of the Ukrainian government, which many have considered to be a kill list. And the fact that this InfoWars reporter and myself and all kinds of other great people that I know and respect are on this list. And he was brutally stabbed to death and killed and shot. I mean, it was a brutal murder that happened of this InfoWars writer and reporter who was on the Ukraine kill list. We got Alex Jones raising the alarm about Ukraine kind of going on a killing spree because they feel that they may be, the war may be ending and they may lose it all. So they just want to kill every last sympathizer. That's certainly concerning. And I'm seeing what's been published about the killing in Austin, Texas. Certainly a horrendous thing. And why is that not on the front page of every newspaper, right? And they've done so much to demonize InfoWars and Alex Jones to make it look like they're responsible for school shootings, etc. And, Alex Jones got sued horrendously. And, you don't have to agree with everything Alex Jones says. I like a lot of what he says about foreign policy. I like a lot of what he says about civil liberties and stuff. But when I heard him on the Jimmy Dore show, when he was talking about demons and how demons gave us the AI technology so that robots can take over, and he lost me there. And when he was promoting the use of hallucinogens, and he has a particularly pessimistic and dark worldview, but it doesn't matter, right? I mean, he was made the villain with which they could justify taking away everyone's free speech. And so, the fact that now Jamie White, an InfoWars reporter, was killed, and it seems that there's a number of people who believe this was a political assassination. I guess now at this point, the police report is saying that there was a break-in in progress, that he went to his home and someone was trying to break into his home and there was a fight or something like that. But that doesn't mean it wasn't political. And, so this is all very, very, very disturbing. And there's a lot that we can talk about. Now, I had a rather exciting day today. For those of you who don't know, I found out that Jewish Voices for Peace was having a flash mob at Trump Tower. And so I rushed myself up to Trump Tower. Shout out to Irving, who joined me there. And I interviewed some of the protesters, and I was there for quite an exciting event. Now, this is all related to the case of Mahmoud Khalil, which I've been discussing extensively on here. Mahmoud Khalil is a Palestinian who's here on a student visa. He's getting his master's degree. He lives in Manhattan with his wife and daughter. and he attends Columbia University, and he was the spokesperson, the media spokesperson, and the negotiator for the protesters, the protests that happened at Columbia recently. And now he's facing deportation. They are deporting him from the country. And, you know, my reaction and my position remains the same. This is wrong. You can't deport someone because of their political views. The Constitution of the United States says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or restricting free exercise thereof, or freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of citizens to peaceably assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. That is the First Amendment of our Constitution. And at no point in that does it say that only applies to citizens, and if you have a green card, that doesn't include you. It doesn't say that. Now, the Trump administration is pointing to a statute that says that the State Department can revoke the visa of somebody who works against the foreign policy of the United States. Now, there's two problems with that. Number one, First Amendment, right? The First Amendment overrides any statute or law, right? The First Amendment overrides that, right? Your free speech overrides that. Second, he's not working against the foreign policy of the United States. He's working against the foreign policy of Israel, and Israel is a foreign country, and Israel has a huge amount of insane power in the United States. There are states where, in order to be a state employee, in South Carolina, in Georgia, in a number of U.S. states, in order to be a state employee, you must sign a pledge that you will not boycott Israel. Now, how do you pledge not to boycott something, right? So you're pledging, basically, a boycott is not doing business with somebody. So you're basically required to pledge that you will buy Israeli products if you are going to be a state employee in Georgia or a state employee in South Carolina. That's absurd. It's ridiculous, and no other country gets this kind of special treatment. So now this Mahmoud Khalil is facing deportation from the United States. Now, all kinds of wild things are happening, and the plot has thickened because we now find out that Mahmoud Khalil was heavily involved in U.S. efforts to overthrow the Syrian government, and that Tulsi Gabbard has been raising the alarm about how Jolani, the current president of Syria, who came in after the Syrian government, the Syrian Arab Republic, was overthrown, Jolani, who apparently Mahmoud Khalil was very key in mobilizing the Muslim community to support. You know, Mahmoud Khalil was a heavily anti-Syrian government activist. Now that Jolani is in power, Jolani is killing Christians and killing Alawites in mass. There's a huge amount of retaliation against the religious minorities of Syria. Tulsi Gabbard's angry about it, and we find out this individual who's being deported for his pro-Palestine activism, we find out that he is someone who's heavily involved in the Syrian conflict. So that complicates things, but my position remains. You can't deport somebody because of their position and because of their legal protesting around the issue of Israel and Palestine. Now, if someone's breaking the law, that's one thing. But you can't deport somebody just because you don't agree with them. And there are a lot of people supporting Mahmoud Khalil. And so I actually went to Trump Tower. I'll show you all the video. I went to Trump Tower today, and I caught the end of the flash mob. I talked with some of the protesters, etc. So this is what happened at Trump Tower today. Here outside Trump Tower in Manhattan, where hundreds of pro-Palestine protesters stormed into the building. It appears that 90 protesters were arrested for their demonstration inside of Trump Tower, and it got pretty rough and intense as the crowd of protesters who came unannounced as a surprise raised the case of Mahmoud Khalil, condemned U.S. support for Israel, and made a ruckus inside of the property of the President of the United States. What happened inside the tower?
So today, over 300 Jewish New Yorkers took over Trump Tower to raise our voices, to call to free Mahmoud Khalil, somebody who was demonstrating for Palestinian rights and was kidnapped from his home. We see the Trump administration is working to stifle dissent and to attack communities that are speaking up for justice for Palestinians. this administration is platforming Nazis while saying that it is combating anti-Semitism by attacking people taking action for Palestinian liberation. We say, get our name out of your mouth, not in our name. This is not about anti-Semitism. We refuse to allow this government to take a fascist turn to repress rights, and we will continue to demonstrate to support until Mahmoud is free and until the U.S. stops arming Israel while it continues to carry out genocide in Gaza.
The case of Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian who is facing deportation for his role in organizing protests at Columbia University. His case was certainly raised among the protesters, and in the moments afterwards, the NYPD swung into action. We see the area pretty much locked down. A lot of police presence, a lot of police barricades have been erected, and a lot of media is still on the scene in the aftermath of what appears to have been a very dramatic flash mob. So yeah, that was my my trip up to Trump Tower to cover the flash mob. And, you know, one thing that the protesters, who were largely just liberals, stop Trump, Trump derangement syndrome, Trump is a fascist, that, one thing they weren't really acknowledging is that U.S. foreign policy is at this point kind of moving in the opposite direction of what Netanyahu wants. Trump is directly negotiating with Hamas. Apparently, there's some kind of deal to extend the ceasefire that Trump and the White House was willing to agree to, that Hamas was willing to agree to, but Netanyahu wasn't willing to agree to. And it also, we have the United States indicating it wants to continue negotiating with Iran. And so it appears that the White House is moving in the opposite direction of what Israel wants, more so than Biden did. The Biden administration was much friendlier to Muslim Americans, much friendlier to the people protesting, but at the same time, they gave Israel absolutely everything it wants. Whereas Donald Trump is taking this move against Mahmoud Khalil, who is a pro-Palestine activist who was involved with the Syria regime change operations, etc. Meanwhile, it looks like Trump is negotiating with Hamas. Now, I was very disappointed to see that Tulsi Gabbard's deputy director of intelligence, who she had appointed this guy to be her deputy director of intelligence, and he is a libertarian, a friend of Douglas McGregor, who is very outspoken in opposition to what Israel has been doing since October 7th. And he apparently has been blocked from being the deputy director of intelligence, which I think is a really big disappointment. I was really hoping that Tulsi Gabbard would have somebody who's critical of Israel and critical of U.S. regime change wars alongside her as, intelligence director. It looks like that's been blocked, but the fact that it was even floated is a good sign. The Trump administration is giving a lot of mixed signals at the moment. However, the thesis of my book, I wrote this book, The Killing of Brian Thompson and the Danger of an American Years of Lead. I think that what I am arguing in this book is very much coming true, which is it appears that the pro-NATO establishment is trying to foment a wave of political violence and instability in the United States in order to overrule the wishes of the majority of Americans that have a non-interventionist perspective, and that this is a parallel to Italy. During the 1950s, Italy was moving in an anti-NATO direction. The Communist Party was very powerful, had a lot of influence in the labor unions, etc. And so Operation Gladio was the CIA's operation where they funded the Red Brigade terrorists, which was a communist group that killed other communists. They funded various fascist groups, and they created a huge amount of violence and instability so that the majority of people in Italy that were opposed to NATO stayed out of politics because they didn't want to get killed. Over 400 people were killed in political murders and political assassinations, but way more people were injured. There was one of the main tactics that was used by the Red Brigades and by the fascist groups was shooting people in their knees or in their legs and crippling them for life. It was from the mafia's tradition of kneecapping people. Just a really brutal activity. And yeah, that there was a feeling that if you got involved in the political process, if you started getting involved in activism in Italy, you might get shot, you might get killed. And so even though the majority of the Italian public was in favor of moving away from NATO, the political movement was so bizarre and confused, with communists killing communists, fascists killing communists, communists killing fascists, fascists killing other fascists, bombings, assassinations, and no one really knowing who was on what side or what was going on. All of that led to Italy staying in NATO. And then at the end of the Cold War, the Italian Communist Party liquidated. And that was the years of lead. And that in my book, I talk about how this is very similar to what the USA did to defeat the Provisional Irish Republican Army. And this is also very similar to what was done in Jamaica during the 1980s. And that if you read the writings of William S. Lind, who talks about fourth generation warfare. And also, if you read the work of Frank Kitson, the British military strategist, the father of low intensity warfare, the inventor of counter gangs, this is generally how you wage a counterinsurgency. Is that you make sure that there is no David and Goliath situation, right? In William S. Lind's book on fourth generation warfare, he tells the story of David and Goliath. And he says that story has been told for 4,000 years. And has there ever been anyone who reads the story of David and Goliath and sympathizes with Goliath? Of course not. We all support David, the underdog. And so the way insurgencies and anti-establishment movements are successful is they capture that energy. And he says it's really important to make sure that no insurgency is able to present itself as David against Goliath, and that the way you handle a low-intensity conflict or an insurgency, the way you handle it is that you generally create confusion. And you divide the insurgents, you make the atmosphere very confusing, you make the people fighting them not the government, but other groups, you make it unclear where people stand, and as things get more confusing and the waters are muddied and everything's a mess, people will kind of de facto go back to supporting the government because it's there, and the opposition seems so confused and so incoherent and divided and dangerous that people will go back to supporting the establishment. And that is the general counterinsurgency strategy that is utilized. And I argue that the glorification of political violence, the effort to incite a huge amount of division among dissident communities, all of that is part of the strategy that is being implemented to move toward an American years of lead, to keep the United States in NATO, just like Italy was kept in NATO. And I think that is the strategy that's being utilized. And I think we have a duty to push in the opposite direction and to build the biggest united front as possible, to present our politics in a very clear way, and to just stand for what's very basic. We need a government of action to fight for working families. That's what we need. And we're willing to work with anyone and everyone who is willing to advance that agenda with us. We need a government of action that will fight for working families. And that is how we push back against all of this. And we at CPI have been the main voice in the United States advocating for peace with Russia and peace with China and negotiation. Since this conflict began, we have been one thing after another, standing in solidarity with the Uhuru movement, standing in solidarity with other voices, supporting the Rage Against the War Machine protests in Washington, D.C., giving a platform to Scott Ritter, organizing marches and demonstrations and conferences, distributing booklets and pamphlets, and doing everything we can, everything that we can do to push forward a message of peace with Russia, peace with China. Only peace can make America great again. Oppose the danger of a new world war, and oppose the emerging low-wage police state for a government of action that fights for working families. And we have been doing this very consistently. very consistently, we have done this. We have just been beating this drum, and we have a good group of people around us. And I'm really optimistic. We had a great recruiting meeting last night about plans to build the convention this summer, and our organization is really moving ahead. We have a lot of very committed people, and we will put you to work. There is plenty to do, and we will put you to work. So I am optimistic about everything that the Center for Political Innovation is doing at this time, and I hope that you will get involved. Now, I did want to highlight some of our work. One thing I wanted to show you is that right after Trump was victorious in November, we made this letter to Donald Trump. And, it may be old news at this point, but I think everything we said in the letter stands. And I don't want people to forget, this is the letter that we wrote to Donald Trump and published, the video letter, the brilliant editing of Peter Coffin. Here is our letter from the Center for Political Innovation to Donald Trump. We are trying to build a coherent, clear, anti-globalist, anti-imperialist, pro-working families message. This is the Center for Political Innovation's letter to Trump.
Official, CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president.
Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, which means he is the winner of this race and will return to the White House.
A sweeping and stunning victory unlike any in our history.
Donald Trump has won the presidency for a second time.
Donald Trump, a convicted felon who survived 2 assassination attempts, making a remarkable comeback to become the next president of the United States.
It's so evil! Nazi! Bring out the boat!
It was a terrible night.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Dear President Donald Trump, we've all spent the last year being told Donald Trump can never win again.
But as we went and spoke with regular voters,
that's never been what they seem to think.
As we predicted, you won.
Because the system that dominates the world, the system these people live in, is in complete crisis.
Imperialism, the old order of the world ruled by big banks and monopolies, is becoming more unstable by the day.
It is relentlessly driving working families' living standards down
and pushing us towards new wars.
Americans voted for you because you promised peace.
You promised peace.
You promised peace.
They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
Americans voted for you because you promised swift government action to improve their lives.
Together we can truly make America great again for all Americans. African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. Success is going to bring us together.
Americans voted for you because you promised to protect our freedoms.
We want to have security. We want to have things be good, safe. I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve.
Americans voted for you because you promised to stand up to the rich and powerful.
You promised to stand up to the rich and powerful.
To the rich and the greedy.
You promised to stand up to the rich and powerful.
And put the people's needs first.
And put our needs first.
I want you to imagine how much better our future can be if we declare independence from the elites who led us from one financial and foreign policy disaster to another.
While many exclusively focus on the negative realities of a political campaign, we remember your Quantum Leap speech, where you rolled out some extraordinary ideas for completely rebuilding this country.
Past generations of Americans pursued big dreams and daring projects that once seemed absolutely impossible. They transformed American life with the interstate highway system. Magnificent it was. And they launched a vast network of satellites into orbit all around the Earth. But today, our country has lost its boldness. Under my leadership, we will get it back in a very big way. Our objective will be a quantum leap in the American standard of living.
We're writing this letter to let you know who we are.
We are the Center for Political Innovation.
The Center for Political Innovation.
The Center for Political Innovation.
Innovation. We are the Center for Political
The Center for
Innovation.
Political
We
Innovation.
are the Center for Political
The
Innovation.
Center for Political
The
Innovation.
Center for Political Innovation.
We are the Center for Political Innovation.
We're innovationist
and anti-imperialist.
We are patriotic Americans
who want to see the power of Wall Street and London defeated.
And a whole new America rebuilt on new foundations.
We exposed Kamala Harris and how dangerous she was back in 2020 with a book called Kamala Harris and the Future of America.
The book was on sale for 4 years without incident.
Then the very day she became the nominee, on July 22nd, Amazon banned our book without explanation.
They did not want people to hear the truth about her awful record. They did not want people to see how she was tied to the regime change apparatus and how she had been carefully groomed by the malevolent forces that ran the Hillary Clinton State Department.
Amazon banned our book for 7 days. Banning our book backfired. Many thousands of copies sold from July to November as people hungered for the truth about the woman we called the most dangerous presidential candidate in history.
We are proud to have spread truth about Kamala Harris and who she really is.
In the final month before the election, we were on the streets of New York City with a huge banner that said, "Only peace can make America great again."
We highlighted what we consider to be your greatest moment in your first term as president when you offered a hand of friendship to North Korea.
Our organization gives voice to what the overwhelming majority of Americans want.
Jobs, schools, economic development, and, most of all, an end to all the wars.
While many of your biggest supporters are tied to Israel, as a matter of basic human morality, you must stop the slaughter in Gaza.
As the president, you will have the power to cut off the money. The $18 million of our tax money that goes into Israel every day is $18 million too much.
You have the power to stand up to Netanyahu and the Israel lobby.
And the overwhelming majority of your supporters will back you in doing so.
You can end the war in Ukraine as well, as you have promised to do.
Russia is ready to sit down with you and make a deal.
You can lift the sanctions that are devaluing the US dollar.
You can cut off the billions of dollars in tax money that has been dumped into death and destruction.
There's an explosion of economic growth happening in Eurasia right now.
China's Belt and Road Initiative, Russia's Eurasian Economic Union, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and BRICS
are all full of new wealth being generated as people rise out of poverty with electrification, railway, and new living conditions.
America can get in on the action, and you can create a legacy of growth and prosperity by pushing to make it happen.
That money and technological progress doesn't need to be for everyone but us.
A share can come to our communities across the heartland and south that have been devastated by the globalist monopolies.
America can join the new world of growth and optimism and leave behind the dying world of globalist bankers.
A big step toward making that happen would be fulfilling the vision first put forward by one of Abraham Lincoln's advisors.
Build the Peace Bridge, connecting Alaska to the Russian Far East. Building that bridge over the Bering Strait would create millions of jobs and connect the United States to the wave of economic expansion happening in that region.
You also have the power to step in and protect Americans from the deep state.
You can make Facebook, YouTube, and other social media outlets stop censoring Americans who speak up.
You can free Ross Ulbricht. You can free Leonard Peltier.
We have paid particular attention to the Uhuru Three, Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, and Omali Yeshitela.
Tucker Carlson highlighted their case in his program.
As part of the liberal Russia hysteria, they got charged with being foreign agents for their work building economic development among black people in Florida and Missouri.
You can pardon them for the absurd conspiracy conviction they received after being acquitted of the primary charge of being Russian agents.
You can repeal the absurd Foreign Agents Registration Act, a vaguely worded law
used to prosecute those who want to change U.S. foreign policy or do business overseas.
We know you can't do this alone. If you do, as you have promised, and clash with the deep state and the big monopolies,
you'll soon realize that there is one ally you desperately need: the American people.
The bulk of the population, those who voted for you because they just can't take it anymore, need to be pushed into action.
The American people are like a sleeping lion that can awaken and roar louder than ever when the time is right.
The country needs a mass movement. It's happened before, and it will happen again.
We defeated the British Empire. We smashed the slavocracy of plantation owners. We built the labor unions and won women the right to vote. We ended the Vietnam War, and we destroyed legal segregation.
The changes that the overwhelming majority of the American people want will not come about as a result of some savior in the White House.
No matter how adept of a political leader you might be.
The masses of people in their millions are the makers of history.
And it will take an upsurge of democratic participation to bring about what this country really needs.
A government of action.
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 A government of
To
action.
fight for working families.
You are in a very important position as arguably the most powerful person in the world right now.
President of the United States.
We urge you to stop the emerging low-wage police state. We urge you to stop the march towards World War III.
We urge you to help energize and mobilize a population to assert their will over the greed of the rich and powerful.
We're building a movement of anti-imperialists here in America.
People who love their neighborhoods, cities, and communities and see that protecting them is more urgent now than ever.
We consistently look to the future optimistically and see many promising possibilities in your re-election.
However, as with all politicians, especially presidents, we cannot and will not offer blind support.
Our goals are peace and prosperity for all, and we won't hesitate to criticize you if you stand in the way.
Millions and millions of working families are counting on you, Donald.
Not just here in the U.S., but around the world.
Find the strength within yourself and your relationship with God to be the hero the world desperately needs.
It may not be your first instinct, and it may even fly in the face of much of what you've said, believed, and even promised.
But it is a surefire way to find your name imprinted in the history books for centuries.
We train our members to understand the world and how it works. More importantly, how to change things.
You will hear a lot from us in the next 4 years.
And if and when you stand up to the forces of darkness and empire, we will always have your back. See you at the inauguration.
That's us. That's the Center for Political Innovation. And we have a really vital role to play. And we have been raising and standing up for justice and truth in a lot of ways right now. It's heading towards spring. It's getting to be warm outside, but it's still chilly in New York. You know, it was warm throughout the day, but then that wind starts blowing. We have a lot to offer as an anti-imperialist movement. We do. We are innovationists. We did just publish a book, which you can read for free on our website if you want to check out the PDF, or if you want to buy it on Amazon. We sold a number of copies today. The book is called What is Innovationism? Explaining our worldview, basically, where we stand. What is innovationism? And it's on Amazon if you want to buy it, or you can just go to the website under books. You can read the PDF. But we put it out there to kind of, explain the worldview that we are teaching, because we are in a completely new category as a movement, as a political organization. Things are changing very rapidly, and we have a very, very important role to play. We're very proud of the work that we have done, and we're very proud to have set the stage for negotiations in Ukraine, and we're hoping that we can see this war ended, and we can see the United States get closer to Russia and China, and move away from the dying colonial powers and Atlanticism. And we refuse to live biologically. That's a theme that I brought up on a stream that I did earlier. I talked about this concept of living biologically. A plant is alive in the biological sense. Your dog, your cat, a rat, a mouse, an insect is alive in the biological sense. But to be human means to impress your will upon the world. To be human means to master your environment and force the environment to serve you. To be human means you don't simply go along a preordained path. It means you consciously wake up and decide that you will intervene in history, and that most of humanity has been reduced to living biologically. They have been kind of lulled to sleep and into an existence where they just kind of go through the motions. But the whole history of humanity is our ability to innovate, to invent, to reinvent our relationship with nature, to reach a higher plane, to think, to wrangle with big questions, etc. And that innovationism is a celebration of the consciousness and the innovation and creativity of humanity, and the fact that in just 5,000 or 6,000 years we've gone from hunter-gatherers in the woods to space travel and iPhones. Ants have been making their ant farms the same way for thousands and millions of years. And beavers have been making their beaver dams, and bees have been making their beehives the same way for thousands and millions of years. But what humanity has done in just a few thousand years, our ability to take the world around us and reinvent it, to innovate. Mankind is a creative species, and God is the creator of all things. And we have a spark of God-like power within us. We have a piece of God within us. Mankind is not just another animal. Human beings have a piece of divinity. We have a soul. We have a piece of God-like creative power within us. And that is worth celebrating. But most people suppress that. Most people don't embrace that side of humanity. And that the current economic and global order is drastically trying to drive down living standards, reduce consumption, reduce the population in order to maintain their power. But we say that humanity can't be shoved back into the bottle, and that human innovation and creativity is going to keep soaring. And an economic order where self-driving cars, which should be a great labor-saving innovation, would lead to mass poverty, that kind of economic order needs to be abolished. We need an economic order where self-driving cars would be a great thing. We need an economic order where innovation and technological advancement leads to more prosperity for all. That's what we need. And that requires a government of action that will control the banks and the factories and the industries and the centers of economic power, so that growth and human progress can be unleashed to an even higher level. That is what we need. We need there to be rational planning to unleash human growth and creativity. We need small business owners to be stimulated with credit. We need infrastructure to be constructed. We need to invest in our population, provide people with health care and jobs, not as a handout, not as a gift, but because human beings are the source of all wealth. And by providing health care and by providing jobs, by providing education, we are investing in the next generation. We're going to have a strong, powerful economy. We need physical economy, real wealth generation, not usury and speculation, not fictitious capital, but real physical economy, an economy of steel and iron, an economy of new computer programs and new advances, an economy of rising living standards, increasing life expectancy, increasing population. We need growth. We need growth more than ever. We need growth and innovation. And the pessimism and Malthusianism of the dying order and its belief that there is no hope and that human beings are a cancer on the planet, the pessimism of the dying order must be combated by building a mass populist movement, a movement on behalf of all society against the pessimistic elite that has taken the economy into their grip. And we must defeat them on behalf of all.
so that human growth and innovation is no longer restrained, is no longer held back, and we can soar to even higher levels. That is ultimately what is needed, and this is called innovationism. And do we draw from Marxism? Yes, but we have fundamental differences, and communism has degenerated into wokeism. Communism has degenerated into an anti-human, anti-working class, anti-family movement. And we are not communists, because communism has turned into a mechanism for imposing degrowth, a pessimistic, destructive wrecker movement. That's not us. We are innovationists. We love our country. We love our community. We love our families. We love humanity. We are not destructive people. We are builders. We are city builders. We are not wreckers. We are constructors. That is what we are. On a busy street in a busy town, I saw them tearing a building down. With a ho-heave-ho and a lusty yell, the men swung a beam and a side wall fell. So I said to the foreman, "Are these men skilled, like those you might hire if you wanted to build?" And the foreman just smiled and said, "No, indeed. Unskilled labor is all that I need, for I can easily wreck in a week or two that which took builders years to do." So I thought to myself as I walked away, which of these roles have I tried to play? Am I a builder who builds with care, measuring life with a compass and square? Am I living my life by a well-made plan, striving to do the best that I can? Or am I that type that scours the town, content with the labor of tearing things down? Are you a builder? Are you a builder? Well, we are an organization of builders. We are an alliance of builders. We are the city building tendency. We are innovationists. We are the Center for Political Innovation. And I hope that you will become a member and join our ranks. Right now, we have a special deal going on where if you join, your first month of membership is free. So you can just have a month to see what we're about. And if you like it, keep staying on. If not, that's fine. But if you sign up and become a member on the website, your first month is free. And that's the deal that we've got going on for CPI right now. So, folks, I am optimistic. I am optimistic about the negotiations. I'm hoping the Ukraine war can end. I am hoping that Mahmoud Khalil is not deported, and that a dangerous precedent is not set in this case that says you can be deported for your political views, even if you don't break the law. I'm hoping that there can be more trade between the USA and China, the USA and Russia, the USA and Iran, the USA and Venezuela, the USA and Cuba. That's what I'm hoping for. And I'm hoping that our organization, our community of solidarity, dedicated to building and constructing and holding each other up in the face of so much darkness and pessimism, I'm hoping that our community and our organization can expand. And that's why I come on here night after night and I talk to all of you, because this is what I believe in and this is what I am going to do. And they're not going to turn us around, not with their hate, not with their pessimism, not with their mudslinging. We are building a real movement. We're not building a social media fandom. We're building a real movement, and we need you to join and get involved. And we are building for that convention this summer. The biggest event that we have ever done. We are going to fill the auditorium, and I'm very excited. So why don't we do the roll call? Names and locations, and then from there, I'll start answering people's questions. So names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Who's with us tonight? Names and locations. We got Bob in Troy, New York. Lawrence Johnson in Chicago. Welcome. Names and locations. The seasoned noob in China. Ian in Chester, England. Alex in Brazil. Welcome. Names and locations. Chris in Kew Gardens, New York. April and Chris in Salt Lake City. Welcome. Corey Grebe in Baltimore, Stefan in Denmark, Chicago here as always, John McCarthy,
and he is headed to Missouri. I'll talk to you a little bit about that later. Jim in Chicago. Welcome, Jim. Wow, we got a good crew of Chicago people. This is going to be a great convention. I hope that you've all registered. The link is down below. The convention is going to be awesome. Courtney in Northern Virginia. Welcome, Courtney. Good to have you with us. St. David's, Bermuda, restless native. The South. Huey Long, the Kingfish. Huey. Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. Anybody else with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who's with us? Who is with us? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Who's with us? Who is with us? Anybody else? Names and locations. Oh, Phil is in the house getting ready for Los Angeles. Good to have you, Phil. Good to have you. Names and locations. Names and locations. Anybody else? Anybody else? Names and locations. I feel like an auctioneer, right? Anybody else? Anybody 45 names and locations, 45. Is that a thing anymore? Do they have auctions anymore? That was a thing when I was a kid. Auctions were a thing, but they don't seem to be a thing anymore. It's kind of a rural thing, auctions, right? Auctioneers, and it's kind of like, bidding and, 50, 50, 55, 55, right? Do people do that anymore? Maybe in country songs or something like that. Oh, well, listen. So we've been doing a little bit of a thing lately. Oh, we got Brooke Chen in Washington State. Good to have you, Brooke. We've been doing a thing on these streams lately where I set a goal, right? This is a new mechanism that's been created by YouTube where you can set a goal for super chats. So I am going to set the goal that we get 5 super chats in the next 45 minutes, and that they're $10 or more. And swine classes in Baltimore, welcome. Many auctions in West Virginia, many auctions in West Virginia, many auctions. So I'm setting the goal now for the next 45 minutes. And if we reach that goal of 5 super chats of $10 or more in the next 45 minutes, I will sing a song, because that was the request last night. That was John. He said, how much do we have to super chat to get you to sing a song? So the goal has now been created. If we get 5 super chats in the next 45 minutes of $10 or more, I will sing you a song. So there you go. Devin of West Virginia is with us. They still auction cars in Chicago. That's interesting. I'm here tonight. Very, very good. Very, very good. So, that is our goal. Right now, I don't have any Rumble rants and I don't have any super chats to answer. So I'm waiting for you to come up with questions for me to answer, etc. If we reach our goal, then I'll be singing you all a song. So think of something you'd like me to answer. Send a super chat. In. I will put on, in honor of Huey Long. There's someone in the chat who calls themselves Huey Long. I'm actually going to put on a video of Huey Long. So a while back, I think, a while back, I made a compilation video of Huey Long. Huey Long is someone I've always really looked up to. Huey Long was the governor of Louisiana from 1928 to 1935. And he was a populist, and he fought for working families. And I have always looked up to him, and he was brutally murdered. He was assassinated and killed in 1935. And he paved the roads and the bridges. He stood up to the Standard Oil Company. Huey Long was great. Garland sends us our first super chat. Much appreciated. And shout out to Garland. Garland is doing some great stuff. I don't know if I can comment on all the great things that he's doing. I know there's a big thing coming up with Garland, but maybe I'm not supposed to talk about that. But he's got a great thing happening soon related to something that is part of our community and our circles. Some big stuff with Garland. So keep your eyes out for a big development with Garland soon. Garland is awesome, and we're doing great things here. But I have always looked up to Huey Long. Oh, okay, I can say it. He said it. here we go. I can say it. Good. Garland is going to be hosting George Galloway's show on Sunday. That is awesome. I think that is tremendous. Garland, my hat off to you, sir. Do a great job. Knock 'em dead. The George Galloway show is tremendous, and Moats, the mother of all talk shows. I'll let you in on a little secret, Garland. I was actually listening to Mother of All Talk Shows before it was on RT. I used to listen to the Mother of All Talk Shows when it was on Talk Sport. I would listen to it on my computer from Britain. I remember when George Galloway was on a radio station in Britain called Talk Sport, and I would listen to it. Wow, you read my mind, John, an Irish rebel song. And I remember when he appeared on Talk Sport, and it was a lot of call-ins on Talk Sport, and I would listen on my computer to Talk Sport. This is the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway. It was great. It was absolutely great. And the other thing is I actually met George Galloway. The first time I ever met him was when he came to Cleveland. I was still living in Cleveland, and he had just done a trip to Gaza. And he had broken the blockade and delivered aid to Gaza. And so he toured the United States, and he spoke to a gathering of Arab Americans in Cleveland, Ohio. And I think it was 2010, maybe 2009. And it was a packed auditorium of Arab Americans to see George Galloway, when he came to Cleveland, Ohio. And it was a memorable night. I will say that. He brought the house down. It was a huge crowd of people there to see George Galloway in Cleveland, Ohio. And that was very, very awesome. So everyone watch the Mother of All Talk Shows on Sunday, because Garland will be hosting it, and Garland is going to knock him dead. Be all over the chat. Cheering for Garland and supporting Garland and his great work. This is a big win for our community, the fact that Garland is there. Garland is... how many times have I seen Garland and he's wearing his CPI shirt? Garland is a CPI adjacent guy, if there ever was one. John McCarthy says Garland is Paul Robeson's revenge on the deep state. That's a good way of putting it, because Garland is very open about how Paul Robeson Jr. Was his mentor. So there you go. Paul Robeson, the great anti-imperialist, working class activist from New Jersey, who aligned with the Communist Party, was blacklisted. Paul Robeson was a great figure who gets kind of written out of history because of the fact that he was very unapologetically a communist. He was absolutely unapologetically a communist and defended the Soviet Union, was blacklisted for it, faced all kinds of violence and intimidation during the McCarthy years. There's a very good recording of Paul Robeson before the House Un-American Activities Committee. And I guess it's not actually Paul Robeson. It's James Earl Jones reading a transcript of the testimony, right, of Paul Robeson, but it's quite powerful testimony. So let me see if I can get that for you all, right? I'm waiting for Huey Long to download. Why don't we play Paul Robeson's testimony before the House Un-American Activities Committee? I don't think we've played that on here before, but it's a very, very powerful recording. So let's put that on. This is Paul Robeson's testimony before the House Un-American Activities Committee in 1956. So let's put that on. All right, here we go.
Are you now a member of the Communist Party?
Oh, please.
Please answer, will you, Mr. Robeson?
What is the Communist Party? What do you mean by that?
Are you now a member of the Communist Party?
Would you like to come to the ballot box when I vote and take out the ballot and see?
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully suggest the witness be directed to answer the question.
You are directed to answer the question.
I invoke the Fifth Amendment and forget it.
I respectfully suggest the witness be directed to answer the question whether, if he gave us a truthful answer, he would be supplying information which might be used against him in a criminal proceeding.
You are directed to answer, Mr.
Gentlemen,
Robeson.
In the first place, wherever I have been in the world, the first to die in the struggle against fascism were the communists. I laid many wreaths upon the graves of communists. That is not criminal. Chief Justice Warren has been very clear that the Fifth Amendment does not have anything to do with the influence of criminality, and I invoke the Fifth Amendment.
Have you ever been known under the name of John Thomas?
Oh, please, does somebody here want me to put up a perjury someplace? John Thomas, my name is Paul Robeson, and anything I have to say, I have said in public all over the world, and that is why I'm here today.
Mr. Chairman, I ask that you direct the witness to answer the question. He's making a speech.
I ask you to affirm or deny the fact that your Communist Party name was John Thomas.
I invoke the Fifth Amendment. This is really ridiculous.
The witness talks very loud when he makes a speech, but when he invokes the Fifth Amendment, I can't hear him.
I have medals for diction. I can talk plenty loud.
Will you talk a little louder?
I invoke the Fifth Amendment loudly.
Sir, who are Mr. and Mrs. Vladimir
I
Nikiev?
invoke the Fifth Amendment.
Do you know a Manning Johnson?
I invoke the Fifth Amendment.
Do you know Gregory Kifitz?
I invoke the Fifth Amendment.
Do you know a Max Jurgen?
I invoke the Fifth Amendment.
Max Jurgen.
Why don't you have these people here to be cross-examined? Could I ask whether this is legal?
This is not only legal, but usual. By unanimous vote, this committee has been instructed to perform this very distasteful task.
To whom am I talking?
You're speaking to the chairman of the committee.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
The Pennsylvania Walter?
That is right.
Representative of the steel workers?
That is right.
And the coal mining workers?
That is right.
Not United States Steel by any chance. A great patriot.
That is right.
You are the author of the bills that are going to keep all kinds of decent people out of the country.
No, only your kind.
Colored people like myself. And you would let in the Teutonic Anglo-Saxon stock.
We are trying to make it easier to get rid of your kind, too.
You don't want any colored people to come in. Could I be allowed to read from my statement?
Will you just tell this committee, please, while under oath, Mr. Robeson, the communists who participated in the preparation of that statement?
Oh, please. The reason I'm here today, from the mouth of the State Department itself, is I should not be allowed to travel because I have struggled for the independence of the colonial peoples of Africa. The other reason I'm here today, again, from the State Department and from the record of the Court of Appeals, is that when I am abroad, I speak out against injustices against the Negro people in this land. That is why I'm here. I'm not being tried for whether I'm a communist. I'm being tried for fighting for the rights of my people, who are still second-class citizens in this country, in this United States of America. My mother was born in your state, and my mother was a Quaker. My ancestors, in the time of Washington, baked bread for George Washington's troops when they crossed the Delaware. My father was a slave. I stand here struggling for the rights of my people to be full citizens in this country. And we are not. We are not in Mississippi. We are not in Montgomery, Alabama. We are not in Washington. We are nowhere. And that is why I'm here today. You want to shut up every Negro who has the courage to stand up and fight for the rights of his people, for the rights of workers. And I have been on many a picket line for the steel workers, too. And that is why I'm here today.
Would you tell us whether or not you know Thomas W. Young?
I invoke the Fifth Amendment.
Thomas W. Young is a Negro president of the Guide Publishing Company. I'd like to read you his testimony, quote, Paul Robeson has no moral right to place in jeopardy the welfare of the American Negro to advance a foreign cause. In the eyes of the Negro people, this false prophet is unfaithful to their country, and they repudiate him, close quote. Do you know the man that said that?
I invoke the Fifth Amendment. Now, can I read my statement? It is a sad and bitter comment.
While you were in Paris in 1949, Mr. Robeson, did you tell an audience the American Negro would never go to war against the Soviet government?
May I say that is slightly out of context? May I explain to you what I did say? I remember the speech very well. 2,000 students who came from populations that would range to 600 or 700 million people asked me to say in their name that they did not want war. No part of my speech in Paris says 15 million American Negroes would do anything. I said it was my feeling that the American people would struggle for peace, And that has been since underscored by the President of these United States. Now, in passing, I said...
Do you know any people who want war?
Listen to me. I said it was unthinkable to me that any people could take up arms in the name of a man like Senator Eastland of Mississippi against anybody. Gentlemen, I still say that. This United States government should go to Mississippi and protect my people. That is what it should do.
I lay before you, sir, an article, quote, "I am looking for full freedom," unquote, by Paul Robeson in The Worker. July 3rd, 1949, quote, "I said it was unthinkable that the Negro people of America or elsewhere could be drawn into war with the Soviet Union. I repeat it with 100-fold emphasis, they will not," close quote.
And, gentlemen, they have not. It is clear that no Americans are going to go to war with the Soviet Union.
While you were in Stockholm, did you make a little speech?
I made all kinds of speeches.
Let me read you a quotation.
Let me listen.
Do so, please.
I am a lawyer.
It would be a revelation if you would listen to counsel.
In good company, I usually listen. But you know, people wander around in such fancy places.
You said, Mr. Robeson, and I quote, "I belong to the American resistance movement, which fights against American imperialism, just as the resistance movement fought against Hitler."
Just like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman were underground railroaders and fighting for our freedom, you bet your life.
I have to insist that you listen to these questions.
I am listening.
I quote further, "Why should the Negroes ever fight against the only nation in the world where racial discrimination is prohibited and where the people can live freely? Never. They will never fight against either the Soviet Union or the people's democracies," close quote. Did you make that statement?
I do not remember, but what is perfectly clear today is that 900 million people, other colored people, have told you they will not. 400 million in India and millions everywhere have told you
The
that.
witness has answered the question. He doesn't need to make a speech.
Did you write an article that was published in the USSR Information Bulletin?
Yes.
Quote, "I want to emphasize that only here in the Soviet Union did I feel that I was a real man with a capital M," close quote.
I would say, what is your name?
Arendt.
I am quite willing to answer the question. When I was a singer years ago, and this you will have to listen to.
I am listening.
I am a bass singer, so for me, it was Chelyabin, the great Russian bass, not Caruso the tenor. I learned the Russian language to sing their songs. I wish you would listen now.
Mr. Chairman, I ask you to direct the witness to answer the question.
Just be fair with me.
I ask for order.
The great poet of Russia is of African blood.
Let us not go so
It is
far
important to
afield.
explain this.
Did you make that statement?
When I first went to Russia in 1934...
Did you make that
When I
statement?
first went to Russia in
Did you
1934...
make that statement?
In Russia, I felt for the first time like a full human being. No color prejudice like in Mississippi. No color prejudice like in Washington. It was the first time I felt like a human being. Where I did not feel the pressure of color as I feel it in this committee today.
Why do you not stay in Russia?
Because my father was a slave, and my people died to build this country. And I'm going to stay here and have a part of it just like you, and no fascist-minded people will drive me from it. Is that clear?
You are here because you are promoting the communist cause.
I am here because I'm opposing the neo-fascist cause, which I see arising in these committees. Jefferson could be sitting here, and Frederick Douglass could be sitting here. Eugene Debs could be sitting here.
Now, what prejudice are you talking about? You were graduated from Rutgers. You were graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. I remember seeing you play football at Lehigh. There was no prejudice against you.
Just a moment. This is something I challenge very deeply, that the success of a few Negroes can make up for $700 a year for thousands of Negro families in the South. My father was a slave, and I have cousins who are sharecroppers. I do not see success in terms of myself. I have sacrificed hundreds of thousands of dollars for what I believe in.
While you were in Moscow, Mr. Robeson, did you make a speech lauding Stalin?
I can't remember.
Have you recently changed
What
your
has
mind about
happened
Stalin?
to Stalin, gentlemen, is a question for the Soviet Union, and I won't argue with a representative of the people who, in building America, wasted the lives of my people. You are responsible, you and your forebears, for 60 to 100 million black people dying in the slave ships and on the plantations. Don't you ask me about anybody. Please.
I'm sure you wouldn't want to discuss with us the slave labor camps in the
Nothing
Soviet
could be
Union.
built more on slavery than this society, I assure you.
I would invite your attention to the Daily Worker of June 29, 1949, with reference to a get-together with you and Ben Davis, formerly communist councilman in New York. Do you know Ben
One
Davis?
of my dearest friends. He is as patriotic an American as can be, and you, gentlemen, are the non-patriots.
Just a minute.
You are the un-American.
The hearing is now adjourned.
I think it should be.
I've endured all of this that I can.
Can I read my statement?
No! The meeting is adjourned.
It should be.
There you go. That was the testimony of Paul Robeson. And quite powerful stuff. Quite powerful stuff. Now, we are pretty far along toward reaching our goal. However, we still, we still need 2 more super chats to reach our goal of 5 super chats of 10 or more. And, so far it's only been John McCarthy, and John is a great beloved member of our community, but don't put the whole burden on him. Send a super chat. We need 2 more super chats to reach our goal, and then I'll sing you a song. So think of a question to ask me. Think of something that I can talk about in the second half of the show. Here, think of something for me to say. We've got 26 more minutes. So send a super chat for $10 or more. We need 2 more. We'll reach our goal, and then I'll sing you all a song. That's the way it works. So send a super chat. Get me talking here in the second half of our show. Now, I am a big fan of Huey Long. Huey Long was the governor of Louisiana. Huey Newton, the founder of the Black Panther Party, was named after Huey Long. And Huey Long, there's footage of him giving actual speeches. And then there was a movie about the life of Huey Long starring John Goodman. So I had the idea a few years ago to mix the speeches of Huey Long, actual Huey Long, with clips from John Goodman playing Huey Long in the made-for-TV movie together. And it makes quite a powerful clip. Huey Long was a great populist fighting for working families. So I'm gonna put on the mix of Huey Long actual footage as well as John Goodman. So this is Huey Long, the great legend from Louisiana.
According to the tables which we have assembled, it is our estimate that 4% of the American people own 85% of the wealth of America, and that over 70% of the people of America don't own enough to pay the debts that they owe. How many men ever went to a barbecue and would let one man take off the table what's intended for 9/10 of the people to eat? The only way you'll ever be able to feed the balance of the people is to make that man come back and bring back some of that grub he ain't got no business with.
Under this oak, where one of our forebears, Evangeline, waited for her lover, Gabriel, who never came. This oak is an immortal spot. The entire world knows about this oak from the poem of Longfellow. But Evangeline is not the only one who has waited here in disappointment. No, no. Where are the schools that you have waited for your children to have but never come? Where are the roads and highways that you have sent your money to build but are no closer now than ever before? Evangeline wept bitter tears, but that only lasted one lifetime. Your tears in this land and around this oak have lasted for generations. Will you let me dry the tears of those who still weep?
How are you going to to feed the balance of the people. What's Morgan and Baruch and Rockefeller and Mellon going to do with all that grub? They can't eat it. They can't wear the clothes. They can't live in the house. Give them a yacht. Give them a palace. Send them to Reno and give them a new wife when they want it. If that's what they want. But when they've got everything on the God's living earth that they can eat and they can wear and they can live in, and all that their children can live in and wear and eat and all their children's children can use, then we got to call Mr. Morgan and Mr. Mellon and Mr. Rockefeller back and say, come back here. Put that stuff back on this table here that you took away from here, that you don't need. Leave something else for the American people to consume. And that's the program. We're not going to destroy the Gulf Refining Company. We're not going to destroy the Standard Oil Company. But we're going to say that the limit of any one man's stock ownership in the Standard Oil Company is from $3 to $5 million to that individual, and that the balance of the people of America own the balance of what the Standard Oil Company is worth. All right.
My name is Huey P. Long, Jr. Like any good patriot, I was born in a log cabin. I would get up before the sun to help my daddy, and my sympathy has always gone to those who toil, and I have endeavored to help them. They say I'm the Karl Marx of the hillbillies. I'm no Karl Marx, but I do love the working man. Now you get that, type it up, and bring it in here when you do.
Every people out there, every neighbor of hers, when I'm and the masses of America, 75 to 80 to 85% of the people not only give up their property year after year, but they go further and further and further into economic slavery to where the flesh and blood of the born and the unborn will never be able to raise the debt, let alone come back and rescue the property that they've lost from these depressions.
You know how for most of you, your pocketbooks are empty, your bellies are tight? They tell us we are even faced with communism. Why not? When 1% of the people control wealth. I'm not a communist. I would not take a single luxury away. But when we reach a point where some men have so many millions and another 100 or so means nothing to them, we are going to have to siphon off some of the water for our own little pool. That's God's law. Look it up in Leviticus. Well, we are going to restrict the piling up of wealth in the hands of the few, and we are going to give it to the people. Now, this is the chance for you to make your voices heard in Washington. We have created an organization called Share Our Wealth Society, and we have prepared a pamphlet for it, and we can send it to you for free, and the whole plan is set forth in it. So I'm appealing to you to organize a Share Our Wealth Society in your own community tonight or tomorrow, and help me, as your servant, see that the government of this country is returned to the people.
And now, the corporate element of this state that were cheek bejeweled, hand in hand with them, who profited by it, who ransacked this state for the element of their allies, are being told what they can do and what they can't do, what they will pay, what they can't keep from paying for the welfare of the people of Louisiana, and we expect to have this state ruled by the people and not by the lords and the interests of high finance.
Will the distinguished senator from wherever the hell he's from please yield the floor for one moment?
I will reluctantly yield the floor to the junior senator from Louisiana.
Thank you. Now, when I first came here to Washington 6 months ago, I felt that we were on a mission to save this country from the despair which is gripping it. But all I get is a good deal of dither and blather from both parties. Millions and millions of workers are out of work. Millions of farmers are losing their farms to the banks, and what are the banks going to do with them? Now, you listen to me. Stop fooling around. Break up the concentration of wealth in this country and redistribute it according to the Lord's plan. Or if you do not, listen. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Weep and howl.
Senator, what are you trying to do? Start a revolution?
No, sir, I'm trying to wake you all up.
Sir, you are not speaking for us.
Well, if I'm not speaking for y'all, I guess I'm speaking against you. The economy of this country is collapsing, and unless we do something about it, the people will be at those Capitol doors 6 months from now looking to string you scoundrels up. And unless you awaken, I'll be there tying the noose.
Then we start from the bottom, that the 25 or more million American families shall have a homestead, a home, and the comforts of a home, including an automobile and a radio, the things it takes in that house to live on. We say to America, 125 million, none shall be too big, none shall be too poor, none shall work too much, none shall be idle. No luxurious mansions empty, none walking the streets, none impoverished, none in pestilence, none in want, but in the land blessed by the smile of the Creator, with everything to be consumed, to be eaten, to be worn, that America will become a land sharing the fruits of the land, not for the favored few, not to satisfy greed, but that all may live in a land in which the Lord has provided an abundance sufficient for the luxury and convenience of the people in general, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Huey Long, an American icon. Now, we do have our goal. We do need 2 more super chats of $10 or more, and then I will sing a song. That's how it works. But we got 15 more minutes, so if somebody can come up with a $10 super chat, 2 more $10 super chats, I will sing you all a song. John McCarthy requested that because it is St. Patrick's Day, that it be an Irish song. It's not actually St. Patrick's Day today, but St. Patrick's Day is coming up. I think that's reasonable. So I will do an Irish song of some kind. If we reach our goal, which is 2 more super chats of $10 or more. So someone send a super chat, someone send another super chat, ask me a question. We need that to happen. We need to reach our goal. So there we go. Now, we don't have any Rumble rants yet either, which is a shame. But yeah, I do need stuff to talk about in the second half of the show. So by all means, give me something to talk about. If you're watching this afterwards, my request is that you leave a comment in the chat, a comment down below. Comments are always helpful and always useful. And look, this is a weird time where we're waiting to see what happens with Russia. We're waiting to see what deals can be made. A lot of questions are in the air, but we just have to build. We just have to build our organization. And that's what I am dedicated to doing, is building the Center for Political Innovation. And our organization has done many great things over the years, and we continue to build and to construct We talk about a lot of very important history. I wanted to draw your attention. I wrote a piece which was just published on the CPI website about Jerry Healy and why it is that DSA and Jacobin decided to smear him recently. Jerry Healy was a very important Palestine activist in Britain during the 1970s and 80s. He died in 1989, but the Jacobin crowd wrote a hit piece on him. So I wrote a very, very long piece about the history of Jerry Healy, etc. And that piece has been published on the CPI website. So check that out. I'm just waiting for people to send me some questions. I know there's got to be people watching who want me to talk about something. John McCarthy was generous enough to super chat 3 times, suggest I do an Irish song, talk about Paul Robeson. We heard from Garland Nixon. If we need people to send 2 more super chats to reach our goal, that would be awesome. So we're just kind of waiting here. The clock is ticking. We do have 11 minutes to reach our goal. So I would encourage you to send me some questions, give me something to talk about here in the second half of the show. Now, I did want to let people know that the Center for Political Innovation are official sponsors of the Uhuru Movement's National Convention. And John McCarthy is headed to the Uhuru Movement's National Convention this weekend. And he will be representing us at that convention. He will be speaking on behalf of our organization. And that's going to be pretty awesome. Here we are with our logo officially on the convention website as endorsers. I think that's really, really good. And our solidarity with the Uhuru Movement is something that I am very, very proud of as an organization. We have done our darndest to support Chairman O'Malley, to support Jesse Neville and Penny Hess through all the criminal charges that they faced. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done supporting them. And it's very, very important to stand with political prisoners. As a matter of principle, right? Look, we don't agree with Mahmoud Khalil, but we stand with him. We stand with him. So there we go. Oh, we do have another super chat. Okay. All right. It seems that the social revolutions in the U.S. were precipitated by spiritual awakenings. Well, I can certainly talk about that. There we go. And it looks like we're 1 super chat away from reaching our goal. 1 more super chat, and I will sing you all a song. Believe it or not. 1 more super chat, and I will sing you all a song. So we're just 1 super chat away from me singing you all a song. And I might as well, since we're doing this, right? I already agreed that it would be an Irish song for St. Patrick's Day. We talked about Paul Robeson. We played Paul Robeson's testimony before the House Un-American Activities Committee. Paul Robeson's performance is still copyrighted. Yes, they are. They're pretty strict about the audio of those. You can't really play those on a stream without having an issue. They're pretty great. Oh, and we have another super chat. So looks like we reached our goal. All right. So we reached our goal. So I guess I will sing you all an Irish song because we reached our goal, right? We did get the 5 super chats. So now I will sing you a song. And this is an Irish song. And, I never claimed to be a great singer or musician. I'm not a professional musician. I speak sing, if you know what I'm saying. So this is an Irish song called Skibbereen. And it's about the Irish-American immigrant experience. Oh, Father dear, I often hear you speak of Erin's Isle. Her lovely seams, her valleys green, her mountains rude and wild. I hear it is a lovely land, which in a prince might dwell. So why did you abandon her? Oh, Father, to me tell. Why, son, I loved my native land with memory and pride, till blight came over all our crops, and our sheep and cattle died. The rents and taxes I had to pay, but I could not them redeem, and that's the cruel reason why I left old Skibbereen. 'Tis well I do remember the cold November day, when the bailiff and the landlord came to drive us all away. They set our roof on fire with their cursed English spleen, and that's another reason why I left old Skibbereen. Your mother, too, God rest her soul, lay on the snowy ground. She fainted in her anguish in the desolation round. She never rose, but passed away from life to mortal dream. And that's another reason why we left old Skibbereen. And you were only 2 years old, and feeble was your frame. I could not leave you with my friends, you bore your father's name. So I wrapped you in my coat so warm in the dead of night unseen, and I heaved a sigh and said goodbye to dear old Skibbereen. Well, father dear, the day will come when vengeance we shall call, and Irishmen, both stout and tall, shall rally one and all. I'll be the man to lead the van beneath our flag of green, and loud and high we'll raise the cry, revenge for Skibbereen. So there you go. That is an Irish American song about the immigrant experience, etc. And also about generational vengeance, right? I remember when I was first married, I was hanging out with my wife and some of her friends on St. Patrick's Day, and I sang them that song. And the woman sitting across from me, Latin American woman, she said, "That's some Braveheart shit." And I thought, well, Braveheart is Scotland. This is Ireland, but there you go, right? That's some Braveheart shit. So there you go. So I hope you liked it, John, and thanks for helping us reach our goal. That was fun. That was fun. Yeah. Do you like the Skibbereen song, John? You're an Irish American. You have the right to like Irish songs or not. Do you like that one? Is that one of the songs you like? Up to you. Up to you to say. So, all right. So, so I'm gonna scroll up here, right? So, boom, 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 boom. All right. So it seems that the social revolutions in the U.S. were precipitated by great spiritual awakening. 1776 Civil War, civil rights. Can the church reclaim this once more? I don't think the U.S. civil rights movement was precipitated by spiritual awakening. It had a very religious dynamic to it. That is because the Black church was one of the only institutions where Black people were able to meet without being suppressed, even during the time of slavery. Nat Turner, who led the slave uprising in Virginia, in Southampton, Virginia, was a minister. And that, the civil rights movement was very much led by clergy. But I wouldn't say there was an episode of spiritual awakening that precipitated it. But the American Revolution and the U.S. Civil War were precipitated by the First Great Awakening, which was a spiritual revival movement among the American colonists. And then you had the Second Great Awakening that came after the American Revolution, which was an anti-slavery, an explicitly anti-slavery religious revival movement. Now, I would consider the Second Great Awakening to be far more important than the First Great Awakening. The First Great Awakening was, I don't quite know what to make of it. It was just that, the colonists were people of various religious groups. Let's remember, right? Why is it, and there's so many contradictions, right? Why is it that something called the separation of church and state exists? Why does it exist? Because the American people are deeply, deeply religious. 9 of the 13 colonies had state religions. Massachusetts was Puritan. Rhode Island, I believe, was started by Roger Williams, who was a Baptist. Virginia was Roman Catholic. Maryland was Roman Catholic. Pennsylvania was started by Quakers, William Penn, Penns Woods, Pennsylvania. And that that 9 of the 13 colonies had state religions. So when they were writing the Constitution of the United States, there was a big fear on the part of minority religions, especially Catholics, who were very hated. Catholics were very, very hated at the time the USA was being founded, especially in Britain. They were widely hated. There was a fear that if we had a national government for the 13 colonies, for the United States, that minority religions would be suppressed. So because there was fear of a state church, like the Church of England being imposed, that minority religions might be suppressed, that's why the First Amendment of the Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, meaning we'll never have a state church in America. Secondly, not restricting free exercise thereof, meaning that there would not be any restriction, meaning that you can practice your religion. And that, America was founded by very, very religious people. Now, to be fair, all right, we got to be fair here. Many of the founding fathers were religious skeptics. Thomas Jefferson, he was widely accused of being an atheist. Now, many people say it would be more accurate to call him an agnostic or a deist, but Thomas Jefferson published the Jefferson Bible. And what he did is he took the Bible and he edited it, basically. He took the Old Testament completely out, and then he edited the New Testament to only contain the teachings of Jesus and to not contain any supernatural, any miracles, any healings, because he feared that the teachings of Jesus would be lost in more what did he say? More enlightened times when people didn't believe in miracles. And so to preserve Jesus's teachings, he published the Jefferson Bible, which is only Jesus's words, in order to make sure that they could be preserved. So Thomas Jefferson was very much a religious skeptic, I think is the way to put it. Also, you have to remember a lot of this is related to Freemasonry, right? Masonry, there was an element, the Freemasons were a society that was formed in England with the rise of the English Civil War, etc. And Masonry, there is an element of religious Unitarianism, right? If you get high enough in Masonry, you read the Quran, you read the Bible, and you kind of learn Masonic teaching is, and it's really not emphasized. And for the most part, Masonry, especially nowadays, is just a club. But back in the day, in like the 1700s, Masonry was kind of a secret society or whatever. It was a club that was very exclusive. And one of the things that they taught Masons as they got older was that there is truth in all religion, right? There is truth in all religion, and that God is proven by mathematics, right? And the symbol that Masons use is they have like the compass and the square, which bricklayers and Masons use, and they have the word G in the middle, and that's for both God and geometry. And they argue that the laws of mathematics, the laws of physics, prove the existence of God. And that Masons, they study the Quran and they learn about how the Islamic Enlightenment, the secrets of the Islamic Enlightenment were brought back to Europe. One of the orders of the Masons is called the Knights Templar, because the Knights Templar, the Crusaders that were sent to the Islamic world by the Pope, were then persecuted by the Pope when they got back because they were bringing with them some of the knowledge from the Islamic world, mathematics, etc. Masonry has an not atheistic, but the belief that that there is truth in all religions, and the belief that God is more about rational and scientific things, that the Bible is not literally true, that all religions have an element of truth, and that logic defines morality, that kind of thing. So among the elite founding fathers, George Washington, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Hamilton, others, the Masonic way of viewing things, which was kind of religious skeptical, was very popular. So there's many sides to all of this, right? Many of the founding fathers, you couldn't really call them Christians, right? Deism, the belief that God was the clockmaker, right? That God started the clock and wound the clock, but then walked away, right? That was a very popular thing among many wealthy Americans at the time of the Revolution. But among the public, right, a lot of the public, especially in New England, were Protestant fanatics, religious dissenters from England, etc. And so, you know, whenever they talk about the first Great Awakening that preceded the American Revolution, they always talk about a guy named Jonathan Edwards. And Jonathan Edwards was kind of a hellfire pastor among the Puritans, sinners in the hands of an angry God, etc. The second American Revolution, or the second American Great Awakening, I would argue, is far more important because it left a really dramatic stamp on U.S. culture, and it was much more populistic in its nature. And that was the anti-slavery movement that arose. It started in New England and New York, largely in New York, upstate New York, and the tradition of tent revival preaching. You know, the pastor would set up outside with a tent. People would gather, you know, outside, baptizing in the river. All kinds of very religious American traditions started with the Second Great Awakening. And the emphasis of the Second Great Awakening was on repentance, but it was not just on an individual level. It was on a national level. It was like the country had to repent from the practice of slavery. The anthem Amazing Grace, the song written by John Newton, the slave owner who repented and stopped, you know, or the slave trader who took his ship back to Africa, that became like very much the anthem of the Second Great Awakening. And the idea was that our country must turn around. And what it really was that the slaveholders had a disproportionate control of the government, right? The U.S. Constitution constitutes slaves as 3/5 of a human being. And so even though slaves could not vote in the Electoral College, the slave states had disproportionate representation because all the slaves counted as 3/5 of a person. And so the Supreme Court and the Congress and the Electoral College, you know, the slave owning states, they had control. And the non-slave economy of the United States, the industrial economy, was weakened. The small farmers, they didn't have as much power in the elections. The industrialists in the North, they didn't have as much power. And so there was a division in the ruling class, you could argue. So the industrialists and the small farmers kind of rallied around a religious revival movement called the Second Great Awakening that was anti-slavery, that viewed slavery as a sin, viewed slavery as immoral, said the country needed to repent from the practice of slavery. And that's when you got John Brown, the great abolitionist who led an armed uprising against slavery. That's when you got a lot of American religion traces back to the Great Awakening, the Second Great Awakening. You know, Seventh-day Adventism, Mormonism, you know, many religious movements in America trace back to that time. I'm descended from Charles G. Finney. You know, my mother's maiden name is Finney, and you know, there was a pastor who lived in New York who was very anti-slavery, refused to give communion to anyone who practiced slavery, and he started tent revival preaching, and he eventually moved out to Ohio and helped start Oberlin College. And I'm a distant descendant of Charles G. Finney. And Charles G. Finney, you can read his Wikipedia page. He was a very, very important figure in the Second Great Awakening. He was a traveling a pastor who built kind of a movement and charismatic Christianity, right? A lot of the Pentecostal practices, speaking in tongues, that kind of thing. Charismatic Christianity in America largely traces its roots to this period. And also some of the religions from this period, people called New Age, right? You know, some of the beliefs of the Mormons, for example, are you know, I mean, are more esoteric, right? In that it's not, you can just read the Bible, read the Book of Mormon, and you'll believe it. It's kind of like you have to go through a process before you learn it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mormon theology argues that human beings are being prepared to eventually become gods, right? That, you know, that eventually, you know, human beings, if we do well enough, and this is like a test, that God will give us our own planet to be gods over, right? That's a very New Age concept. The idea that humans, you know, there's animals and there's humans that have like a soul or whatever, and there's God, and that God is eventually, if we do well enough in this life, will become gods ourselves, right? That is very much a part of the Mormon tradition. And that's what they would call New Age, right? And New Age stuff, I mean, if you listen to, for example, Mormonism, there's a hymn called High to Kolob, which it sounds a little more L. Ron Hubbard than Joseph Smith. I mean, it's talking about planets and outer space and stuff. It's actually a really neat hymn. But it goes to show you that, the Second Great Awakening had many sides to it. Let me just put it that way. The Second Great Awakening had many different sides to it. I mean, the American people are very, very spiritual. There's no question about that. So, yeah, that's part of our heritage. All right. R.I.P. Raul Grijalva. Thoughts on ideological diversity in CPI, not just on culture, but some members being for a market economy and some members being for a planned economy. I don't know who Raul Grijalva is, but I'm going to Google that. Raul Grijalva. Former U.S. representative. An American, he was a member of the House of Representatives. Okay. Died of lung cancer. He represented Arizona in the legislature. And he was Raza Unida, and Mexican American. Okay, yeah, Raza Unida was a movement that started. It was like he was the Bernie Sanders of the Southwest. That's interesting. I was never aware of this guy. I know about Raza Unida, which Raza Unida, not to be confused with National Council of La Raza, which is a completely different group. But Raza Unida was a movement that started in the Chicano areas of the United States, the parts of the United States that used to be part of Mexico, for independence, right? That, they want to break the Sun Belt, they call it. Aztlan, the Sun Belt, the parts of the United States that were once part of Mexico. They want them to break away and become an independent country because they were stolen from Mexico. And they argue that the people there don't have their self-determination because they have, not been able to speak their own language. The property is not owned by them. That the Chicano people, the people that have lived in Southern California, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, the people who lived there for generations, they say we didn't cross the border crossed us. And that is true. And that there was ethnic cleansing by the U.S. government. They forcibly deported many thousands of them during the 1930s, even though they were born there, and that, their language was literally beaten out of them in schools. They would try to, beat the Spanish out of the kids. And it was awful. I mean, the Chicano people have really been screwed as a group of people. And so there was a movement during the 1960s. There was the Chicano Moratorium, it was called. And then you had the Brown Berets, they were called, which was like the Black Panthers, but it was for Chicanos that wanted to break away. And then you have La Raza Unida, which was a political party that advocated the breakup of the United States on that grounds. As far as diversity, look, CPI was never intended to be a Leninist party that had one line. We have our 4-point plan, and we are doing anti-imperialist operations. CPI, I cannot repeat this enough. CPI exists to get shit done. That is why CPI exists. Let me remind, CPI exists to get shit done. That's why CPI exists. And the shit that we do is really, really important. And the people who don't like us don't understand that. The Uhuru movement was facing years in prison. And these people who don't like us, they're like, well, we tweeted in support of it. Like, no, we went to their events. I will never forget. We have done so much. We raised money. We did so much for the Uhuru movement. And so, not surprisingly, a few years ago, they had their Black is Back march in D.C. Not surprisingly, we had the event, and one of our CPI members was invited to speak. And he got up and he spoke. And afterwards, two of these individuals that are now, I don't even want to say where they are now, ran up to him. How did you get to speak? And it's like, well, we organized a huge amount for their cause. We helped them. But it's like he doesn't understand them, right? These people that think it's all just entertainment. People who think it's all just social media. It's about building real organizations. And we went out of our way to mobilize support for the Uhuru movement. And that's why CPI exists. That's why John's here. We're trying to get shit done. Getting shit done matters. Being in the streets, unfurling the Peace MAGA banner, passing out thousands of Kamala Harris books. We are there to get shit done. And these other groups are there to entertain people on the internet. They are to make people feel special because they have a membership card. I don't know what they're there to do. We exist to get shit done. And we're not going to give that up because somebody said so, right? We are going to keep getting shit done. And if you look at what we do, it's like boom, boom, boom. We're actually building a movement. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't know what a movement is, right? A lot of younger people don't understand that this isn't just a form of passive internet entertainment. And you got to learn, right? And I'm not here to run people down because they don't know that yet. What I don't appreciate is that, there is a conscious effort at this point to keep people from getting shit done, to do stuff, to keep people from joining our movement because they don't want people to get shit done. What they want is for people to just stay on the internet. And that there is a conscious effort. And this happens in every dissident community. This is happening among libertarians. Angela McCurdle, when she was running the Libertarian Party, she was getting shit done. She organized a huge rally, Rage Against the War Machine, a huge rally to rescue the Republic. She was getting shit done. And so there's a bunch of douchebag internet libertarian streamers who are dumping on her all the time. And they got thousands of views and they're boosted. Oh my God, I can't believe she organized this rally. And they weren't doing anything, right? And the same on the far right. There's certain douchebag far right streamers who talk shit and all of that. And they're not getting anything done, but they run down and demonize anybody who does. And the same in our circles. There are certain people that are really big on the internet, but don't do shit in real life. They don't do shit in real life. And for some reason, it's almost like they've been boosted and assigned to attack us. Well, they're attacking us because we're doing real shit and they're not. That's what it really gets down to. We were there for the Uhuru movement. They didn't do shit for the Uhuru movement. And don't tell me they tweeted for the Uhuru movement. Oh, God forbid they tweeted. Tweeted. We went to their court dates. We were there with them. Right after the raid, we had a huge conference. I was blackmailed before that conference and threatened before that conference. We were there for the Uhuru movement. We were there for them. And it's not just the Uhuru movement. The Democrat National Convention happened. What did we do? We showed up with 1,000 copies of a book about the truth about Kamala Harris and handed them out on the streets. Made sure everyone got one. That's us, right? What else? What else did we do, right? We went to the Libertarian Party convention with 1,000 booklets. Do you believe in growth? Handed them out. Got the message out. What else did we do? We got a big banner that said, only peace can make America great again. And we marched through the streets of Manhattan and we were outside Madison Square Garden. We were at the inauguration. We're getting real shit done, folks. We exist to get real shit done. That's why CPI exists. And other people exist to be entertaining on the internet. And for some reason, they can't just be entertaining on the internet and let us do what we got to do. They got to be entertaining on the internet while spreading lies about us, while being hostile, and that tells you what's going on, right? And if I wasn't doing anything in real life, I'm sure they would blow me up. I'd have 500 people watching, but what good would that do? Philosophers have only analyzed the world, my friends. But the point, however, is to change it. And CPI exists to change it, to get real shit done. So we're getting real shit done. And we're not going to stop getting real shit done. We're building an organization of people that are there to get real shit done. We were in the streets of Minneapolis getting real shit done. We had a great workshop, and then we had a small little rally. And a lot of people in Minneapolis were giving us thumbs up and honking their horns. They saw us out in the streets. We're getting real shit done. Other people are talking on the internet, and for some reason they have to run us down for some reason while they don't do shit, and they're really desperate to, you can't be with us, they're really competitive for some reason, and they're really mad that we no longer call ourselves communists. Why? Because they want to own communism. They want to be the bosses of communism. And when we stopped calling ourselves communists and became innovationists, oh boy, they weren't able to do that anymore. And they're so furious about that because they clearly are just a maneuver to fuck us over. We existed before they existed. We were talking the way they talked before they did. And now that we don't call ourselves communists, they're furious. No, you got to come back and call ourselves communists so that we can outdo you with the internet being rigged in our favor. No. Come back, call yourselves communists. No, you guys want to be the big bosses of communism. All right, be the big bosses of communism. And you all can fart on the internet and do whatever you want. We're getting real shit done. We exist to get to the masses, not to own communism. The small percentage of Americans who call themselves communists are very problematic in the least, and we want to get to the masses. So if you want to own communism and be the big boss of communism, and by all means do that, and you're competitive assholes, and you and all the Trotskyites and the Maoists, you can all fight over who's the big boss of communism. On the other hand, we're going to be outside of the protest cage, outside of the bubble, getting real shit done. That's what we're doing. We're getting real shit done, which is why we've always existed. And if you weren't competitive assholes, we always opened the door. We were always friendly. We always gave you a platform. But you're such competitive assholes, and you're so concerned with how you look on social media. You stabbed us in the back. Well, go fuck yourself. I mean, that's all I can say about that, yeah, there we go. We're getting shit done. Today, or yesterday, actually, we published a book, What is Innovationism? And you can read it for free on our website. It's also on Amazon if you want a print copy of it. And it's just an introduction to the CPI perspective. That's actually what it's called. What is Innovationism? A basic introduction to the Center for Political Innovation. And it's our perspective as we build our organization. So there we go. Yeah, so there we go. John says, right now it's an open question whether Trump will make peace or not. What people do will make a difference. Yes. Yes, sir. What people do will make a difference. That's why we're building for July, to have a mega anti-imperialist rally in July, a huge event, packing that auditorium, an all-day mega anti-imperialist rally, a demonstration of anti-imperialism. It must be done. It must be done. It is urgent that it be done. We must build. We must build. It must be done. So be in Chicago. Go ahead and register if you haven't registered yet. We need to build, and we're having meetings about how to build. And we are a group of people that is dedicated to doing stuff. And we are dedicated to mobilizing the forces that need to be mobilized and building the event that we need to build. That is what we are dedicated to doing. And yeah, there you go. We don't back down and we don't surrender. Dare to struggle, dare to win. Join the Center for Political Innovation. Join us at our convention in July. Join us in Los Angeles as well. We got the event coming up in Los Angeles. It's going to be good. Our movement is marching ahead. We are not surrendering. We are marching forward. Dare to struggle, dare to win. And don't pay attention to the internet and numbers, because social media is rigged. It's always been rigged. It's fake. We're about the real relationships and the real community and the real organization that is desperately needed in our time. That's what we're about. And yeah. So I appreciate all of you who are here. We've had a great chat tonight. I'll be back maybe tomorrow, maybe Saturday. We'll see. But I'll be back. I had a wild day. I was running up to Manhattan for the event, and we support Mahmoud Khalil. We stand with him, and we're going to keep organizing, and we're going to keep building. So, all right, folks, I am going to put on the closing music, yeah, this is fun. This has been fun, and we'll be back. We'll be back. We will be back. We will be back. New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries
have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.